welcome to a quick look at Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Firstly, I have Conflu, so apologies in advance. I'm going to try and cut out all the sniffling, but just in case I miss one, sorry. And secondly, thank you very much to Square Enix. It's always a pleasure to work with the Tomb Raider franchise, especially if it involves getting my hands on the game before it's out. So thank you again. So, for those of you who are wanting to watch this and go, well, I'm interested in how the gameplay and that all works, but I don't want spoilers, I'm going to try and keep this as spoiler-free as possible for you. So hopefully this will answer some questions for you without spoiling the whole lot. So what goes on in this specific one is this is the final game in the trilogy. Therefore, Lara is completing her arc of going from novice Tomb Raider to hardened survivor. The consequences of her actions begin to catch up with Lara in this one. She has become very obsessed, not necessarily realizing it, but on the way people get hurt, people just give up, they've abandoned her. So at the start of this game, it's just her and Jonah.
We can get through here. Give me a hand.
So she has to learn how to deal with her obsession, the consequences of her obsession, and also try and change the way that she operates. Because basically she does a really bad thing at the start of this game, and the rest of it is about trying to correct that mistake. Really harsh life lesson for Lara in this one.
You see that?
It must be Kwakyaku. We have to get down there.
So let's take a look at gameplay. Everything you see in this video is done by me, which is why it's pretty inept. But it's me playing, just to confirm. It's not me just like sticking my voice over someone else's footage. This is me actually playing it. So it should give you an idea of what the general end Let's Play is going to be like if you haven't watched my stuff before. A lot of flailing, a lot of falling over. Sometimes we win. So yeah, I'm excited to go through this. Before we start, I just want to really quickly mention this screen. This basically will allow you to adjust your combat, exploration, or puzzle difficulty separately to the main game difficulty. Which means if you're like me, and actually you were pretty happy with combat, but you'd like some better puzzle stuff or exploration stuff, you could tweak that difficulty up. So things like exploration difficulty, it says here, discrete white paint on critical paths, normal saving grab times. So that's on the normal setting, because you can see it all says normal there. If you change that, it would then go, actually, the grab times, so if you almost fall off, that will be reduced. And also, we're going to get rid of some of that white paint. I like that I can tweak some of those things to challenge me a little more without worrying about the combat level going up. So we're going to probably play around with that a little bit. It is a bit worrying that there's also timed mechanics in the puzzle area, which takes me back to Tomb Raider 1 and fucking boulders, etc. But I'm excited to have a little tweak with that before we start, set it to something silly, and just go from there. I know that it might seem silly to some people, but flexibility like this is really cool, and we should see it in more games. It shouldn't just be one setting. I would love to be able to tweak enemy difficulty, puzzle difficulty, etc., in all the games I play. It would be fabulous. So good job, guys, for thinking about that and trying to find a solution that works for all players. There is also a very diverse skill tree, which you will be able to level up at campfires, at base camps, as before, etc. There are 3 different paths. You could dabble between all of them. So, for example, I picked up silent stealth takedowns. So that's if you take someone down, your stealth takedown, they don't make a noise because obviously there's still a scuffle. So I took that because I thought I might have to deal with men. I also took auto-looting of enemies killed by stealth because that's a pain in the butt. So that was just a lazy skill tree point, but worth it. Better speed when swimming. If you went for the warrior tree, you could pick talents like charging your bow shots up longer. I would imagine there's quite a lot of melee stuff in there. You guys know I don't do a lot of melee, so I obviously dabbled in scavenger, but also in the 3rd area, which is seeker. The seeker area does things like it will boost your survival instincts to show more items or locations or traps, better silence when you're doing active things like landing or jumping or falling, harvesting spiders and beetles for venom and dark poison, which implies at some point we might get a blowpipe. I'm up for that. And then also locating the heart of a large animal will deal more damage. So those are the kind of talents that you could spec into. I know more about the secret of the scavenger area purely because that's the way I went. But I would imagine when we actually get to the game, I'm going to have to put quite a bit evenly into everything depending on the area, what I've got to deal with, enemies, etc. So it should be that we get really cool variations of Lara's throughout loads of people's playthroughs of Shadow of the Tomb Raider. I'm going for Stealth Archer, which is the way I've been playing shit since like Skyrim and before. I love a good Stealth Archer. And so far she hasn't seen me wrong. So we're going to be doing all this stuff involving this skill tree, but where exactly are we going to do it? Well, it appears that most of this game is set in the South American jungles, which I frickin' love. It's a really good place where you can combine amazing tropical wildlife and environments, but also have that mystical element as well, because obviously the Aztecs and the Mayans were knocking about there. And that's something we will see in the architecture in the game, especially in the tombs. And I'm all for that. I'm so happy. I love it. I can't remember whether Tomb Raider across the however many games now, 13, 14 games, not counting spin-offs like PSP games and things. I can't remember how many times we've been to South America, properly focused. I can remember India in 3, China in 2, but it's kind of all blurred. So I'm excited that we're getting a game that seems to be predominantly focused on that continent and in that area, because there's a lot of really good history to tap into with the Aztecs and the Mayans, loads of artifacts that you could steal or not steal, and because it's got all these different layers of like wildlife but also years of stuff building up, it means that you could have this jungle with this canopy that you could be in, and then you look down, you're like, oh, actually I'm quite high up, shit. And then further down towards the floor you have like big wildlife and entrances to places or plants that you could gather. Swimming, you could go swimming, it would be lovely. What could go wrong? The nice clear waters, so beautiful, so happy. And then also you have things like the tombs. We've got all these beautiful places, but it wouldn't be Tomb Raider if we didn't have enemies, which come along and ruin everything. You're having a lovely time in a tree. Jaguar says no. Are you having a nice time just inspecting this ivy wall? This man, he said no too. Do you want a nice little swim? Eel says no. And apparently also piranhas will definitely say no. I think I saw some tapirs or some capybaras at one point. There's lovely birds. There's little frogs that you can shoot and XP comes out of them. There's spiders and beetles, which I mentioned before, that you can use for darts. There's a sheer variety of wildlife, and it's really nicely reflected. Obviously, some of it is a bit of a bitch, and it is probably going to kill you, but it is Tomb Raider, so we have only got ourselves to blame. I'm actually very happy we have jaguars. It fits, it fits with the whole thing. It fits the cultural history as well, because they used to wear jaguar skins ceremonially, I think. I don't know where I've got that from. That might be the conflu. But they're also one of the apex predators of the jungle. So we used to have leopards, we used to have lions, we used to have wolves. So it fits perfectly. And actually, the first couple of times you meet the jaguars, it's very clearly laid out who is the boss. That's a big thing in itself, the same way as the wolves were initially. A huge deal. Or the bear, actually, in Rise of the Tomb Raider as well. There's always going to be that key predator. In general as well, the parkour and exploration is very similar to the last one. Some things have been tweaked a little bit so it feels a bit smoother. Rappelling and wall running have been added into this one, which does add depth to the exploration, but it's also a callback to some of the earlier ones. Underwater areas, like, fuck my life, guys. We didn't need that. Did you not pay attention to Sonic 1? Why? Why would you add this? I love you for doing it, because it's cool and it stresses me out, and that's one thing I really enjoy about Tomb Raider is the adrenaline and the flowing and all of that. But why did you have to put in underwater areas? And why did there have to be eels, man? Like, that wasn't consulted on. You just decided to put some eels in. And also, you've decided to add air supply for long, swimmy bits. Which, again, bless you because you've made something that is terrifying and horrible and stressful, and I will be enjoying it, but also curse you for all the same reasons I just said. Obviously, we're dealing with an area that does have a rather large river in it. So say, for example, there was to be a flood, we might have to do some swimming. It is something that you may have seen in some of the gameplay footage that's been circulating at the moment. I put some on screen now. There's some big floods. Lara's going to have to deal with it. There will be stuff in the skill tree that will help with that. I mentioned one earlier about better speed when swimming. Obviously, holding breath and stuff like that, I would imagine will be in there too. So, that is a quick look, hopefully spoiler-free-ish, at Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Hopefully it's answered some questions for you. If you've got any others, feel free to chuck them down below in the comments section. If I can answer them, I will, or direct you to the right place. Also, have a look at the video description. There will be a link to not only the game itself, but also I'm going to pop a link in there to the stealth challenge that I did with Ant Middleton, and also the behind-the-scenes vlog in association with that. Once again, thank you very much to Square for working with me on this. You guys are amazing. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you guys as well for watching this. Give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you think. Let me know how excited you are for Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Whether that's whether you're playing it or I'm playing it and you're watching it, let me know. I want to hear your thoughts. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys soon. Goodbye.
I've come so far. I'm not turning back.